Hello and welcome to the Wisdom Writers podcast, where writers from around the world share stories and poems that spread love and inspiration. I'm Seamus, and every month we explore writing and insights to support you on your creative journey. Hello everyone, and welcome to our first episode. Today, we are going to ask our members what poetry means to them and what inspired them to start writing poems. I'd like to start by sharing a little about myself. My name is Simus, and I have been writing poems for several years now. As for me, poetry has always been a way of processing the world, capturing emotions I couldn't name, and sometimes just surviving a day. I first started writing in middle school, and over time, it's become the most honest conversation I have with myself. So, let's ask our young yet talented poet, Harris, what poetry means to him.
Hello everyone. I'm here to talk about my writing journey. My writing journey is not that interesting. It's all started when I was sad. I searched up online on what to do. There were many suggestions, and out of that, writing poetry was one of the suggestion. And yeah, I opted for it, and I never thought I would write poetry in the first place, but still I tried. At first, I didn't get much feedback on my poems, because I didn't share it in the first place. I was scared, a little afraid of the judgment, and for like 10 to 15 poems, I didn't share to anyone. But then one day I felt confident enough to share a poem, so I created a Reddit account and decided to share. Well, there was no feedbacks, to be honest. Yeah, but I kept trying, and yeah, I did receive some feedback. Well, not much, like 2 to 3 feedbacks, and but at the time it was enough to boost me up. I I continued writing for another 2 weeks. Then I found wisdom writers from one profile on Reddit, and it was awesome. The experience, like it was a small community, and I felt seen. They encouraged me, and I participated in the first competition that they hosted and won. And honestly, that's the last competition I ever won. It felt nice. But then I kind of abandoned writing. Um, because um I started to receive no feedbacks at all. So I decided to abandon my account. But then one of the moderators of the Reddit of some wisdom writers encouraged me to continue writing, and yeah, so I continued writing, and it was a fun journey. Like they wisdom writers created Discord, and they held poetry meetings. It always encouraged me to write, to continue writing. Mm, I I really feel happy to talk about it. Yes.
Thank you, Harris, for such an honest answer. Feedback is really important for writers. It's like a mirror that can show you your reflection, your skills. And now we would like to hear the opinion of our experienced writer, Ghost, who has inspired many of us with his kind words and thought provoking pieces of writing.
Hello, this is Ghost of Kurt Cobain. My friends call me Ghost. My pen name is I.W. Tane. What does poetry mean to me, and when did I first start writing? Poetry means everything to me. Uh, it is how I communicate with the world. It's how I process my feelings and emotions. It's how I gauge spiritual and mental growth. It is my opportunity to express myself without having to experience any anxiety in the moment. Sometimes I do go back and revisit things and make changes, but I try to leave my first thoughts as pure as possible. I feel like my ability to communicate with people with words has been compromised the older I get, mainly due to my evolving sense of awareness and my cynicism. So I like to write because I feel like it allows me to be more honest with myself and the world. I think it allows those who take the time to read the things that I write the opportunity to interpret them for themselves and to let the words speak for me. The words don't belong to me. The things that I write just come to me in my head, and they come to me in my heart. It comes to me from my soul and my mind, and I try to record them for others to experience. But I really feel like as a writer and as a poet, I am more of a translator for something greater than myself. So I started writing around 89 or 90, my freshman year of high school. I was having some trouble with my personal life with some friends and family and things like that. So I began to process my feelings through my writing. And it's just something that really worked out, and I have stuck with it. There has been some gaps in there where I didn't write for a while. I have moments of very strong inspiration, and then there's obviously some lulls. But of late, I have been extremely inspired, and I am looking forward to growing as a writer. I am very grateful for the opportunity to participate in this community, and I feel like I have a great deal to learn from all of the other brilliant writers that are a part of this community. And I look forward to contributing on a consistent basis. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share. Cheers.
This is really insightful. Poetry as a way of communication. It never lies, and it's a language of love, as it comes from the heart. Ghost, I hope that your personal journey will encourage others to open up through poetry. Our next poet is Manga from India. He is known for his short yet impactful poems. Let's hear what he has to say.
What does poetry mean to me is an interesting question, which I've never asked myself. But if I were to, I would say it's about understanding the poem and also the poets itself, understanding their emotions, their thoughts, their ideology, and their feelings, and understanding why they wrote that poem, what made them write that poem. I read and write poetry mainly to understand everything around me, understand the world, and also myself. And what inspired me to first start writing was that a lot of people around me write poetry. So I thought that I should try my hand at it. And I did. I thought it was very fun to do. So I just continued doing it.
Yes, I totally agree with you. Writers can observe the world more deeply through writing. Moreover, crafting poems isn't only about work, it's also fun. What about you, Gabe? What is poetry for you?
To me, poetry means to take those emotions that can't be put into words and to put them into words. To me, poetry means the purest form of art and a way to communicate that which cannot normally be communicated. What first inspired me to start writing poetry was that when I was little, I wanted to be a music star. And then I realized I can't sing. So I tried my hand at writing music, and then those became my first poems. They weren't good or anything, but it was a start, and I don't regret it one bit. I've always enjoyed it.
Yes, poetry is a form of art, and it requires not just skill but also creativity and inspiration. I'm glad you found a way to fulfill your potential. What does our Nordic poet, Tommy, think?
Tommy, thanks for letting me be a part of this. And I'll keep it short and simple. Poetry wasn't something I chose. It was the only way I could breathe at one. I never wanted to write to begin with. I actually wanted to make music, but here I am. As for my first inspiration, probably the silent pain I grew up in.
That is a very profound thought. Yes, once you are a poet, you will always be one. It's your era, the way you live, your autobiography. Imad, you are quite new to writing. How did it all start?
Poetry to me is a way to express yourself, to express the way you feel, the way you think, and express anything that is inside you. About what inspired me is life and music, and sometimes I just get that motivation to write something, and I do. So yeah.
Music inspires many people. It touches their hearts and lets your emotions out. Thank you, Imad. Let's hear the opinion of another experienced writer, Mona.
Poetry is more than just words for me. I think for me, poetry is about feelings, about releasing your soul and showing it to the world, or maybe just having it releasing your feelings and not letting it build up. For me, poetry is just opening up your soul and making it into words. What inspired me to start writing? I think for me, I was very young when I started writing. I'm not sure, but I think I was really. It's kind of stupid because I was a kid, but I had a crush on someone, so I just started writing about that person. I started writing poetry about that person. Yeah, but later in life, I've been inspired to write because I've had so much feelings inside of me and struggled a lot mentally. So I just needed to release that. So I just wrote and wrote and wrote so I could just stop feeling too much, basically.
Now it's even deeper when we talk about the soul. Writers put their feelings into woven lines. They embrace their vulnerability. Thank you, Mona, for being so honest. Taha, your love poems are always impressive. Tell us about your journey.
So, in my opinion, poetry is mean everything to me. It is the way that I can speak about my deep feelings, and it's kind of a gift that helped me to speak about my feelings in perfect way. So, always poetry is everything to me, and I can remember what inspired me because I had read I had read poetry when I was like 13 years old or something. But like I feel that I had a gift, so I tried to use it in a good way, and I'm still writing.
You certainly have a gift. Please keep writing and sharing your work with us. I hope our new member, Mahmoud, can share some insights too.
For me, to be honest, I don't I don't want to be cheesy, but for me, poetry is healing. You know, I heal through poetry. I've been diagnosed with 3 psychiatric conditions. I've been eating my stomach's full of medicines from many, many years ago. And I've been struggling a lot with my conditions, and I realized that I will never have a normal life. And also, I had a lot of traumatic experience since childhood. But I never thought about writing anything. But since 2 years ago, I found a new therapist, and he told me, why don't you just journal your thoughts, your feelings? If you can't share it with anyone in your life, if no one understands what you're going through, just share it with the paper. You will feel much better. Then I started journaling, but I couldn't get a sense of satisfaction or a sense of sharing when I was writing on paper. So I thought about writing a poem. And the first poem I wrote was Homesick at Home, where I felt like I know this is my home, but it feels like a strange place. It feels weird when I'm at home. I want my old home back, but it's the same home. So I don't know what to do and I'm stuck. And so I poured my heart out onto the paper. And also, the funny thing is, I didn't know much about writing poetry. I don't use any imagery, I don't use any poetic devices. I just rhyme the last words and I write what I feel or I'm going through. So when I started writing poetry, it felt like the paper understood me more than journaling. So then, once I shared one of my poems after taking a lot of time, after gaining enough courage, I thought I would share one of my poems with my friends. And the Homesick at Home poem was related to by a lot of people. That's when my healing began. That's when I realized that no, it's not just me. Everyone is going through a lot of problems. Everyone is dealing with a lot of traumas. And people could relate to my problems. So that's when my healing began. It's not literally healing, but my load got a lot lighter when I understood that I'm not alone in this. So I started writing about my struggles and my problems. And the rest is, as people say, the rest is history. Now I stick with it almost all the time. When I get a free time, I try to write. And it's literally therapy for me.
Yes, poetry helps not just to relieve stress, but also to find the common language. By reading poems, we can experience so many of the things the writer has gone through. Your writing is very relatable. Thank you for sharing it with us. Let's ask Faizan what inspired him to start writing.
Hello, everybody. So, I was asked the question, what does poetry mean to me? And when I started writing, and what inspired me to start writing poems. So, today I'll be answering that question and describing what it means to me and how I started doing this. I was first exposed to poetry in my English classes in school. And over there, I just thought of it as a subject, reading stories and poems, and trying to understand how the writer came up with that and why the writer came up with that. And that was interesting to me at that point, but it was like a passing thought. I didn't pay much attention to it. But later on, when I found certain things relatable in certain poems, I thought to myself that, well, this is just 2 pages of writing, but it contains a lot of emotions and a lot of details that couldn't have been described if you were to write it down or if you were to verbally say the things out loud to somebody. Uh, but there are just 3 sentences that you came up with could describe something that was a page's worth of information and your expression. So this thought came to my mind, and even then I wasn't good enough at it, although I appreciated it there. I was exposed to poets such as Robert Louis Stevenson and Keats and Frost and Sylvia Plath, and they seemed interesting enough to me, especially Edgar Allan Poe over there. And I enjoyed reading it and I appreciated the art, but it didn't come to me that I could do it myself until a point that came later in my life. And during the lockdown, I started developing my creative skills and my writing abilities matured a little bit more. And then some thoughts came into my mind that I couldn't express otherwise to the people around me, which was one of the reasons that I started writing, because I couldn't say it right away and they wouldn't get it the way I wanted to tell and relate to it, right? Also, what I wanted to say came to me in a way that had to be written down in a certain form. And since I was aware of what poems are and how they carry so much depth to them, I thought, why not give it a shot, right? And I sat down with a pen and a paper and all the things that I had learned in school and my other classes about writing a poem, the structure that it had to have, the rhyme it had to have, and what the poet wants to say, how they want to say. All the poetic devices came to my mind when I started writing. And I tried to use it my own way and pen it down just like that. And then I came up with my first poem ever in around, I think, 2021, I think. And that's how I started writing poems. And that time I realized that I actually liked doing this. And I have been writing ever since. But I only write when I have a certain certain sense of emotion, something that I deeply feel, a sense of understanding a particular idea that I am unable to express otherwise. That's what I would say. Like, it's not something I would do for the sake of doing it for somebody else, although that would help me refine my skills. But if I do not have a concept for something, I cannot write it. So it only comes to me when I feel strongly about a certain idea or concept or a certain emotion. If I have something to say, basically, I can express something in the way I usually express them through poems. When I deeply feel them, a sense of understanding comes to me, and then I can go through it without even trying. So when I'm totally into writing my poems, I can finish a poem in 15-20 minutes. Or if it's a really big one, if I have something really long to express, really a big thing to tell, then it'll take a bit more longer. But usually I can do the whole thing at one go. I don't do it like 3 lines and I have no motivation and I hit a writer's block and then I come back to it later on. That happens when I try to come up with something that is like, if you give me a theme, like you should write on this, and I'm absolutely baffled. I have no idea how to go about it. That is when I would face something like that. But usually when I have something in my mind already, then I can write about it just in 30 or 40 minutes. And my inspirations are just anything. Maybe it could be an experience, a bad experience that made me feel deeply about something. And I want to write about that thing so that I can pen down my thoughts. Another reason I write is because I like to introspect upon my thoughts, and writing down shows me how I feel and how I've expressed it. So it shows that I strongly felt about this certain thing that happened on this certain day, or this certain experience stayed with me even after a large amount of time has passed, and that shows me how I feel about it, so I can reflect back upon myself, and that also helps me refine my skills. So that is one thing that drives me to write. Yeah, sometimes I look at certain things, certain people, certain objects, certain sounds, certain elements of nostalgia, certain environments can give me an idea to write stuff. And in those cases, I just note down the idea in my phone so that maybe sometime later when I look back upon it, I can write the stuff that I wanted to, or maybe it'll come to me later. Now that I've been writing for a while, I can control how I want to express certain things. So basically, I'll be doing it myself without forcing myself to do it. But at the same time, I can hold on to an idea much longer now. So that if I have got no time to do it right now, I can do it later on by just putting in the key points that I felt at that moment and then going back and looking at it sometime in the future. So that's pretty much about it.
I'm glad you found your way to poetry, and I hope you will always have inspiration to write. We have 2 more poets who will share their thoughts. Rahul, how did you start writing?
Hi, Rahul this side. So for me, poetry is the exploration of human experience, a way to express your feelings, your emotions. It is a way to write and describe what you are observing, what are you thinking, writing down your imaginations using metaphor in such a way that a reader can relate to it. Actually, it is a way from a writer's heart to reader's heart, which can relate to whatever the writer is writing. And what inspired me to start writing is my own situations, where I was struggling to share my feelings and there was no one to understand my feelings. And the only way I found is to write to take down my stress. And when I used to read poems by great poets, it always left me shocked and amazed at how they could express something so good that it's always relatable. And then I also wished to write something like that, but I failed because not having such stories and content to write. But once I got in those situations where I can feel how the poet were able to find such contents and how they were able to write such relatable and deep poems. Then, writing was only the way to take out my frustrations, my stress, and feeling less depressing. It was always like talking to a person who is not going to judge and correct me, even every time without understanding me. Thank you.
You've spoken words of wisdom. And yes, writing poems is like keeping a diary. No one is going to judge you. And the last member we are going to ask is Marina. So, what is poetry to you?
Poetry means different things to me. It's a way to give a compliment and share my feelings. It's also a tool for self-reflection and easing anxiety. Poetry also helps me convey messages and share knowledge. What inspired me to start writing was a poem I received as a birthday gift. I loved it so much that I began writing poems for my friends. Eventually, I started using it as a way to relieve stress and express my experiences.
That's a lovely story. Thank you for sharing. Poems are the best gift you can give. They can make anyone's day. Before we finish today's episode, I would like to share this classic poem by William Butler Yeats, titled When You Are Old. When you are old and grey and full of sleep, and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read, and dream of the soft look your eyes had once, and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace, and loved your beauty with love full so true? But one man loved the pilgrim soul in you, and loved the sorrows of your changing face. And bending down beside the glowing bars, murmur a little sadly how love fled, and paced upon the mountains overhead, and hid his face amid a crowd of stars. This is the end of our first episode. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something about the way poets write and express themselves. We look forward to meeting you in our next episode. Goodbye. This was the WisdomWriters podcast. Thank you for listening. See you in the next episode, and remember, writing is its own reward.